Okay, if media services can tell us when we are live.
Yeah, we're still
We're
waiting
working on
for
it.
the YouTube connection. It's going through.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, if media services can tell us when we are live.
Yeah, we're still
We're
waiting
working
for
on
the YouTube connection. It's coming through now.
Okay. Mine says webinar is now streaming live on YouTube.
Yeah, it's coming through now.
So,
Yeah,
So we're now public, huh?
I believe
Yes.
we are.
Okay. So is it time for us to call the meeting to order? It is. All right. So we'll call the meeting to order. I think we have a quorum. Do we need to call the roll? I think it's pretty evident that we do. I have a set of minutes that calls for the president's comments first.
Okay, thank you, Phil.
You're very welcome.
So it was really important for me to be here tonight on a lot of levels, but mostly because this is going to be the last time I'm going to be meeting with you formally as a retiring president. And Stephanie Bulger, Dr. Bulger, will be here obviously in the fall. She'll be coming in July, and then we'll be with you from the fall forward. And I really want to personally thank each and every one of you. You have taken your job so seriously. You've really done above and beyond what we had even expected or hoped for. I just want to thank you for doing what you do. This is the type of a committee that every college needs, with the type of money flowing in and out. You know, you're the stewards of taxpayers' money. So I thank you. You know, we just passed our budget. I don't know if any of you were watching, and it was also extraordinary. I was so humbled by the care people took with reading the documents and asking the questions. So I really want to thank you. And I think in being here tonight, my role is I want to review what your charge is again, because I think it's important that you hear it regularly. You know, this committee was charged with looking at bond measure 2306 to review the progress, to monitor the spending, and to monitor the schedule. I mean, those are the three things: the progress, the schedules, and of course, the spending. The committee shall meet at least once annually, and it's fine if you meet more, but at least once annually, so you can review the bond projects, look at 12 months forward, look at the bond projects for the previous 12 months, and determine if the college is doing what we said we were doing. So then I pulled the ballot measure, because I thought, you know what, this is good. This is a good check-in with each other. What did the ballot measure say? And at the end of the day, it said that the Lane Community College proposes this measure to increase the safety, repair, and construction of labs for job training, to extend the life of the aging facilities, to update its technology, and then to finance the capital costs that will support student learning. If approved, this measure will include the following projects. Number one, district-wide earthquake and safety upgrades. Number two, upgrading the science labs, modernizing math, arts, and engineering spaces. Three, creating workforce development center. Four, constructing a building for expanded health professions programs with dental clinic. Then expanding our manufacturing and our technology programs, creating mobile manufacturing welding labs, building a cybersecurity program, and then related site improvements, equipments, furnishings, and cost. So it was good for me to kind of step back, look at it. And tonight you have a wonderful agenda. And I understand that we're meeting tonight because a lot of the information that you were hoping to have the last time you didn't have. But I know I've checked in with Tom and with Dr. Stalliard, and it appears I'm looking forward to tonight. We're going to hear Grant talk all about the good stuff, right? About what's going on in the academics. What's this going to, what's this really going to bring to the community? And this is what we've all been waiting for. So that was it. I just want to say personally, thank you all. a check-in regarding, what the charge is. And I honestly will be watching from the sidelines, but I hope to be at these ribbon cuttings to see a lot of this good work. Thank you. Mr. Chair?
Thank you, President Hamilton. It's great to hear from you. And we, may I just say for the committee, we appreciate that you and the college are interested in our work, and we hope to make you proud.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. The next item on our agenda is the review and approval of the April 2022 minutes. And I couldn't help but overhear as I came on before the meeting began that there was some concern about people actually having a chance to review the minutes. What's your pleasure? It seems to me we can either deal with those minutes now if you're ready, or we can postpone them toward the end of the meeting when hopefully people have had a chance to review them. What would you like to do? Does anybody need more time? I will say that I've reviewed them and I'm happy with them as they're written. Is there a motion?
I motion.
Alan moves that the minutes be approved as distributed. Is there a second? I think Sally seconded, but I heard she's on mute, so I can't tell for sure.
Roger seconds.
Roger seconds, thank you. So we've moved and seconded the minutes be approved as printed to it or distributed to us. Any discussion? Any concerns? Any objection to the minutes being approved as per the motion? Yeah, there, Mary Ann, did you have an objection?
I just because, Tammy, I'm sure you have tons to do. For me, it would be a big help to get these meeting minutes sooner rather than later while this stuff is fresh in my mind. There's a ton of attachments that come. And like what just happened tonight, I didn't decipher which one were the meeting minutes. If it's at all possible, I'd like to get these sooner rather than later. That's just my 2 cents. Thanks.
Yeah, I heard the discussion about the way in which they're stored. And I may be the only one in this group who has trouble with the fact that the college has a way, which I'm sure is quite useful to the college for keeping these records, but I'm not familiar with it. And I would love to have these things sent to us as an attachment to an email so I could review them well in advance. And I think, Mary Ann, that's what you're suggesting too, if I understand you correctly.
Well, the meeting minutes came as an attachment. I just lazily don't print everything out because there seems to be a lot of emails that come. And so I kind of have decided I just want to focus on listening now as opposed to printing it all out. I don't know. I don't know what the solution is, but they do store them in board docs too, as well as attachments.
Gotcha. Thank
I
you.
think we can work on trying to get those out as quickly. I know it usually takes us, I'll give Tammy a week to 10 days to put things together. So this one was a little bit quicker. But we can send that, we'll note that we can try and send that out as a dedicated email. It sounds would appease. So.
Well, I know that's not the usual practice within the college, but most of us are not part of the college as such, and it would probably be really useful to do it in the old-fashioned way, in addition, of course, to maintaining it in the college records. Is there any other issue on the minutes? Are you ready to vote? All in favor? The motion is to approve the minutes as distributed. Is all in favor? Raise a hand, say aye, whatever. Is there anybody opposed to the adoption of the minutes? Nobody's opposed, so the minutes are adopted. Let's go on. Old business, the monthly report, Dr. Stalliard. And you're on mute, I think, if I recognize where you are. I think you're in the big conference room.
Yes, good evening, everyone. As I stated on April 18th, my commitment was to submit a monthly report to the Oversight Committee, similar to what I did for the Board of Education. I'm sure you received the informational report. My question is, was this report satisfactory? And do you have any question for me or any modification that you would like to see going forward? I focus on a couple issues that I thought that the Oversight Committee need to know. One was staffing issues, active bond projects. And I also completed bond projects also. So I have several categories that in my opinion was easy reading, summary, money, and everything that I felt that the Oversight Committee may need to know. So I am open to suggestions regarding the format of my information report. But like I said earlier, this is the same format I provided to the Board of Education on a monthly basis.
Can I ask a point of clarification? This is Claire.
Please.
Yeah, Dr. Stalliard, are you asking for our opinion now about how you present in the next 10 minutes? Or are you asking about future?
No, I'm asking you, since I know the information report went out earlier, I was asking for feedback. If you don't have the feedback, I'm fine. I can wait maybe for the next meeting, because my goal is to make sure that the information report that you receive is easy to understand and the format is okay for the Oversight Committee.
I think it might,
Please, go ahead.
well, I was gonna say, is there a specific attachment that you can point us to that we would be able to look at? I'm not completely sure which attachment that is. There were a lot that were sent.
This attachment is called informational report. So I will have to discuss with Tammy how it was sent out, and maybe we can send out each document separately. But I will discuss that with Phil and Tammy to ensure that the information you receive is what you're looking for.
All right, that's where I'm confused. It's Claire again. That information report is not in our documentation as far as I can see. There were 5 documents that Tammy attached to us on Thursday, May 12th. Your document is not included there as far as I can see.
Okay, then I will have to double check with Tommy. For that, I have to apologize.
Yeah.
Please
go ahead.
Well, I was gonna say, are each of these the ones that begin with Project Charter? Do you begin those attachments with that title?
That one will not be my information report. I'm assuming if it's in charter, I have to default to Tom, because Tom did a report also.
Okay.
Yeah, I've reviewed the material that I've received, and I don't see a report with that name on it. I don't remember reading one. I've read all the reports, but I don't remember reading that one. And I was expecting you to, because the way the agenda is written, is that you were going to give in a monthly report in 10 minutes this evening.
Well,
Mr. Chairman,
Yeah, I'm sorry. Yes, please.
I've read the report. It's a one-page display with green, yellow, and blue bars on it. It's called Bond Information Report, and it summarizes the total amount of resources available, how they're allocated, and what the surplus is at this point.
Okay, I do remember.
It came with Tammy's email, I don't know if you can see it in front of my camera, but it looks like this. And it could be lost with the rest of the documents, but it's there.
Yeah,
The people who say we got a lot of stuff are absolutely correct.
well, I did review the report you're describing. I remember that. I didn't realize it was the report that Dr. Steyer was referring to. I'm not able to pull it up right now, but I did remember.
But that report that Roger is saying is not the information report. That's the report of the bond 2020 information update. That's the detailed report about the money. I was going to walk the committee through that next. So Tammy will share her screen so that everyone will be able to see that report that Roger just described. Tammy, can you share your screen?
Want me to right now?
Yeah.
So given that most of us apparently have not seen Dr. Steyer, the report you were wanting to tell us about, the monthly report, do you want to hit the high points of that now, or do you want to go on?
Well, sure, I can hit the high point. Like I said, the report is broken down into 3 different sections. The first section is staffing issues. So in the report, it described that currently we have a vacancy in the bond division for a staffing accountant, and we also have a vacancy for administrative specialist to support Thomas in his carrying out his day-to-day activity. So that's the first portion of the report. The action plan was that I spoke to Shane Turner about the possibility of going to an outside temporary agency. He granted me approval to go to so I can find an admin specialist. The staff accountant, after speaking to the chairperson of the committee, it closed last Tuesday. The committee is reviewing the application. So I'm figuring between now and the end of the month, the committee will start to be interviewing so we can get this staff accountant in place to support Tom in his endeavor to ensure that we are tracking these major projects. The other section of the report is active bond project. We know we have Florence. Tom is going to go into detail about that. We have the health professional billing as an active thing. We have the high tech. Tom and Grant Matthews will be discussing that in detail, providing a summary and a PowerPoint presentation. In section D of the report, we have the athletic field. I update the committee where we at with the athletic fields. I also have a meeting tomorrow. I think it's 3:30 with Mindy and the athletic director and Tom to discuss the baseball field. So I'll be reporting back on the outcome of that meeting at our next meeting. Also, in that section, I included campus safety project, which on campus, we have a safety concern. We are trying to replace several cameras on campus. Chief Rump and the purchasing department is meeting to prepare a request for proposal so we can go out, find a vendor and get this camera replaced. So in case we have any type of emergency or we have to work with the City of Eugene Police Department or the county, our cameras can support the investigation. And lastly, of the information report, we have completed bond project. In the report, it shows that the performing art roof was repaired. Also, the athletic field, we replaced the turf on the track surface. So those is a couple things I wanted to just to do the format, let the oversight committee see, and so I can get feedback. And Tom is probably going to go in much more detail than my monthly summary.
Can I speak?
Sure.
Thank you.
The information was sent on May 3rd. It's in that email. It has a memo, bond 2020 report, DEI, committee member contact list, voters pamphlet, bond oversight committee. It was stuff that you had requested be sent out. That's where you'll find what he just was speaking about.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, please.
sorry, I had my hand up. I just wanted to be recognized.
I'm sorry, I was busy looking for these various documents.
Okay.
I think one of the things that we have learned is that that documents sent piecemeal, not labeled accurately in the agenda, may get missed. I am guessing I'm not the only one who didn't realize that the agenda tonight, that Dr. Salyard's report consisted of the material that was sent on May 3rd. I thought I was prepared for the meeting tonight, but obviously I was not. I'm sorry, now you go ahead, please. Whoever was going to talk, was it Kevin?
Yes. So I just wanted to say thank you to Dr. Stalyard for the report. I like the format. It's really easy for me to understand and read through. I really appreciate that. Mr. Chair, in regards to like all of the documents and stuff, I kind of find board docs confusing and you know, it's not something I use every day. However, since I get all of the docs sent to me via email, I can easily drop them all into a Google folder and share them with members of the committee who might be more familiar with using Google. And I know that, you know, we can't rely on LCC staff to necessarily put stuff in there because it's not what they're working with. Right. But I could be a good steward of that to make it more accessible if that's appropriate.
Thank you. That's a great offer. I appreciate it. Again, I apologize on behalf of myself and probably a couple of other committee members who did not understand that that Dr. Stalyard's monthly report meant referring to documents that were sent to us on May 3rd. I just didn't understand that. Dr. Stalyard, did you have other material you wanted to cover with us tonight?
Yes, and Tammy is going to share the screen so I can walk you through. You got it?
Oh, 1 second, it's coming.
Okay. Yeah, give her 1 second. It's coming.
Chair, I do see that Claire and Marianne each have their hand up as well.
Oh, let's go back then. Marianne, did you have something? And you're on mute, so we can't hear you. There you are.
Claire had her hand up first.
Oh, okay. Claire?
Yeah, no, the other one. Yeah.
I just wanted to say that rather than create more different spaces for things, if we just embed a link in the agenda, which is kind of a standard operating procedure, that the agenda gives us links out to all the documents we need. But, and this is a huge caveat, the agenda cannot arrive the day before. So if the documents come previously, that's really great for us to be able to prepare. And then when the agenda comes, it has all the documents linked. And then we're all up to date with the location of the documents that we're using for this meeting. That, I think, is probably the correct process.
Thank you, Claire. I was not I hadn't quite gotten there, but I agree with your comment. Mary Ann?
I was just gonna say the same thing. When we get the agenda, if you could have a link like to, is it Dr. Stalliard? I stand correct, I don't know. If we could just put after that, the link to the document that he's referring to, then we could go way faster with this. Like the VI, I don't know what else is, of all the attachments we've received will be on this agenda, but that would help me greatly just to
Yeah.
keep it a little more organized. Thanks, Claire.
Thank you. And it would help me. Obviously, I'm not prepared as I had hoped I was, because I didn't understand that these documents and the agenda were hooked together. Mary Ann's suggestion or something similar to that would be, or Claire's suggestion would be really useful for further future reference, and probably for other committees as well. I'm making that up. Dr. Stein, did you have other things you wanted to talk about under your monthly report?
So the next information I want to share, give Tommy a second. There is it right there. I think this what I call Bond 2020 information report is a good spreadsheet of how the team utilized the bond money that was approved. In the first portion of the spreadsheet, the voters voted for $121 million. The state of Oregon provides some money for the health professional billing. State of Oregon provided 1.5 for Florence. And by the sale of our bonds, we make some money, about $12 million. So the total money available for the bonds was 143. And I think that was important that the Oversight Committee had the full picture, because when I began my research, I came up with the information I just shared. And it was important that I also mentioned that the administrative / payroll cost is about $4.3 million. So for the bond project, we are starting out with $138 million 700. And as you walk away down, the spreadsheet have a section mark description, initial budget, project adjustment, current budget, and the total cost. So and comments. So I think by having those sections there, so the committee can see initially how is everything is going, would help them to see and ask questions if they have some concern. Go up a little more. So the first section was active bond project. As you see, they highlighted in yellow. Right below that, we have completed bond project. And in the blue, we have some IT infrastructure improvement. And the last time was professional service. So when you take all of those expenses, currently our balance is about $31 million in the bond. So I think that was important for the committee to see how are we tracking the money when we have to make adjustment, where the adjustment is coming from the non-allocated funds of the project. So I just wanted to share this information with the committee. How are we tracking? And we're trying to keep those numbers as current as possible. So when we present them on the monthly basis, the oversight is receiving accurate information as best as we can tell. Any questions, clarification?
Any questions, comments for Dr. Stalliard on this document?
I have a question. This is Claire.
Please, Claire.
I have been looking at the different spreadsheets that have shown project, price, and scope. And I went back and looked at all of them that had been provided to us, not including this most current one. And one of the questions that arises for me is that numbers change, and I understand why they change because the price changes, but occasionally there will be no funding in a line item for a particular project. And so it's unclear to me if that project is moving on and off and back on and back off of the roster of projects.
Okay, let me explain that to you, Claire, as
Okay.
to the best of my ability. That document that you're referring to, that is what we call it our daily work document for the team. So the team have a tendency to try to put every project on that they think about doing. See, that is an internal document. That's why I make the administrative decision to prepare a document for the external users to see exactly what projects is actively being performed to avoid what you just described to me. So this document that I just described to the Oversight Committee is the document that going forward, we will be utilizing for external stakeholders. This is the document that show everyone the active project, not our working document for the team to try to figure out where we're going. So this is the official document for us going forward. And if you look at that document, down to the bottom, we have non-allocated funds. So in case we have to move some money to a project, that's where the money will be coming from, non-allocated funds. So I hope I did a good job describing to you our intent on the expenditures of the bond money.
You did. I'm not clear if this committee is an internal or external reviewer. Are we, as the Oversight Committee, looking at these documents and we are understanding them as the public would, or as you expect us to understand the manipulations of the projects?
My goal is to use this document for the Oversight Committee and anybody else. We have a working document that tomorrow morning when I meet with Tom, those projects might shift all the way around. But that's what the team used to try to gauge stuff. And that spreadsheet is very messy, and only the team really understand what they're trying to do. So I make administrative decision to give the Oversight Committee and any external inquiry that document, because that document is clean and is easy to understand.
Other questions, comments?
Could you explain the beginning total column? I get the initial budget, I get project adjustments, current budget, and then beginning total makes sense at the top, but I'm trying to understand as you go further down into the report.
Okay, so if you take the beginning bond balance, $138,700,000, that's what we have available for bond projects. So let's take the first bond project, which is health professional billing. Well, you come straight down, the health professional billing, the total of that project as you see, you have the Florence for $32 million. You have the Florence Center. You have the high-tech building. You have the demolition. You have the athletic fields and the turf replacement for $103 million total. Now, I show if I ask Tom if that 103 is accurate, he might say that might have increased. So Tom and I have not get together to update this document. So what I did is if you go back up to the top to the $138 million and you subtract the 103, your current balance is $35,250,000. That's the money we have left for the bond project. So now if you come down a little more to the completed bond project, we have spent $1,313,000 on some change. So I'll go across and subtract that $1,300,000. That gave us $33 million. So I try to keep it in section so for the oversight committee can follow the deduction as simply as possible.
Thank you. That makes sense. Thank you.
That's good.
Thank you, that's helpful. Other questions, comments on this section?
I see Amanda's hand up.
Amanda, please. Thank you, I appreciate the help. You're on mute, or you were.
So I just want to kind of circle back to what Claire was asking. And thanks, Tammy, for sharing the screen for Marianne again. So I think she was still kind of getting clarification and confirmation of what the role of this oversight committee is with regards, I love all this. I appreciate this information that's been shared. It's definitely a move in the right direction. However, a lot of decisions are being made and then were reported out to. And so again, it's kind of that, what is the real role of what we're doing here?
May I step in?
Please.
It's not you're not a decision-making group. You're an oversight to report out. So you're a community group looking in to see if this college is spending the money in the manner. That's why I started with, here's the 3 things you're supposed to do. We said we were going to do this, 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 and this. Are we doing it? Are we doing it in a timely fashion? And are we spending the money the way we're supposed to? That's it. And Phil reports back. So once a year, he's going to report back and he's going to say to the board, well, these are the projects you said you were going to work on. These are the projects you've been working on. And remember, we said, go 12 months forward. What are you going to work on next year? Right? That Tom will be discussing about that. So again, I'm looking at it. What's the bond projects for the next 12 months? What's the bond projects for the past 12 months? And then are we doing what we said we would be doing? And that's why I went right back to the bond measure, because I knew y'all were going to ask me this question. And that's it. That's it.
Thank you,
Okay.
Madam President. Sorry, was that Amanda? Please.
I was just going to say that's helpful. Thank you so much, Dr. Hamilton.
Right. It does make. Sorry, go ahead.
There's still some more information. I guess I look forward to hearing the rest of this conversation tonight, but there's still some question marks. So that's why I'm like, I'll wait to kind of further elaborate. But thank you. I think we're on a good path.
Thank you. If I could add to what President Hamilton said, our role is similar to, but not quite the same as an auditor, as I understand it. We don't make the policy decisions. We don't decide whether we like them or dislike them. We just review what the goal was that other people set, whether or not the college is meeting that goal in the manners that President Hamilton described. That makes our job, frankly, a whole lot simpler than it would have been had we been in any of those other roles. Mm-hmm. So as long as we keep that in mind, we can cut out a lot of gee, maybe we should have oughta, because that is not our job. Have I got that, Madam President?
Yes, sir. If
Okay.
we came to you and said, we're building a roller skating rink, you get to say, well, where does it say that in the ballot measure that I
Right.
voted on, right? I
Exactly.
mean, we made a contract. My gosh, I must have done 100 speeches to Rotaries and chairs. And I said, we're going to do this, 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 and this. And is that what we're doing? And that's it. You're like our conscience, right? Are we doing what we said we were going to do?
Yeah, and my opinion might be they ought to be doing something different, but that's not my job or your job tonight.
Right.
It's did they do what they said they were going to do?
That's
And
it.
are they continuing to do what they said they were going to do?
Yes.
Okay, I need to
Please, Claire,
interject
go
here.
ahead. Please, go
I
ahead.
need to
Claire.
interject, please. Nobody, first of all, the letter that Amanda and I wrote to the committee was written in good faith that everybody on this team is doing the best job to the extent that they have the capacity to do. And our letter was not intended to try to accuse anybody on administration or in this realm of nefariously misappropriating any funds. Nobody has suggested anything of that scope. The question remains that when things come on and off the budget, and that these numbers are changing so hugely, including 30% increases at some points of particular projects or large changes, that who we asked in our email, who is making these decisions? Because we've got a president who's about to retire, who's making a lot of decisions. We've got a new chief financial officer who's brand new, who may be making a lot of decisions. And we've got Tom and his capable team making a lot of decisions, but it's not clear how those decisions are being made. And that is the foundational question that we asked, and I think keeps floating to the surface. So I personally, as a member of this committee, do not want to go through the minutia about how decisions are made. I'm asking, and Amanda and I both asked, how are they made and who is making them? And I think the voters might ask that question too. I mean, I'm asking that question as a voter, as a taxpayer, and as an employee, and as a member of the faculty union. And so I feel like the tone of this is trying to placate us a little bit. And I want us to step back and grant the fact that these are real questions, and we don't need to be placated. I have asked who's making the decision, how are they making the decision, and then how are the decisions being shared out? And now we're seeing that they're being shared out in spreadsheets.
Claire, let me try to answer that for you to the best of my ability. Tom managed the bond project. Tom and Jennifer managed the bond project. We meet, I meet with Tom on a weekly basis to get a good understanding on what's going on with those major projects. Well, let me give an example. There was an issue with the high tech. We call a meeting with Grant. We call a meeting with the provost. We call a meeting with the president. Tom was there. I think Jennifer went on vacation. We was there, and we just have a discussion about the high tech building, right? Grant explained to us explained to me, because I'm the newest individual on the team. You know, he shared with me that he was speaking to community leaders about the building. Tom mentioned about demolition versus remodel and stuff like that. So all of those information, the president and the provost was there. A decision was made. Well, let me take it back. A recommendation was made. We took it to the Board of Education. And that the Board of Education, to me, is the governing body that says yes or no. If my explanation is not correct, President Hamilton, can you help me? Is that the process we are using?
Okay, so yes, he's correct. I don't know if you all understand this, but we talk to the board every month. Whether it's an RFP or whether, I mean, Tom is literally talking to them in a work, sometimes twice a month, he's doing work sessions. So, you know, I don't know what decisions you think I'm making, but let me give you an example of things that happens in operations. I get told, I think it was around the holidays, that the roof wasn't going to make it through the snowstorm. That was something, right? So we have a roof that's not going to make it. So we had to make a decision to prop the roof back up. So if that's the kind of decisions y'all are talking about, and then once they prop the roof up, Tom, I'm sure I'm not articulating this correctly, you know, and then, you know, do you wait or do you go out again? Those are operational. Those were crisis level decisions. And then we find out that it's going to cost an extended amount of money to fix this. So those are the kinds of things this board, not only are they updated on this, they're told about it in executive sessions. If it's a real estate related, or, you know, there was phone calls, emails. So I guess I feel curious what decisions have been made, and I do need to clear that up for you, Claire, because we got a list. You know, I just read it off. That list hasn't changed. What's changing daily, and this is Tom's headache, is the cost. He gets these costs, and what are we going to do? And the board is totally, trust me, I am not making any decisions.
No, and that's not, and my point is that I've already lived through one of these bonds. Yeah. And I live in a building that was built with bonds, and decisions were made about this building that the library inhabits, that the library did not decide. So decisions are made by people who are not in the room, who are not necessarily impacted. And so I have a little bit of a sensitivity, right, about how decisions are made, because whole groups of people live with those decisions. And it's not, honestly, Dr. Hamilton, it's not going to be you that lives with them. It's going to be us.
Totally get that.
I don't want to belabor it. I just wanted to be sure that you understood that these were real concerns.
Got it.
And that we're not just looking for a simple answer.
Well, Claire, let me just do one more clarification for you. That's why when I and Phil spoke, I told Phil that Tom and I is not the academic expert. That's why I went out to Paul, the provost, and asked Paul if Grant Matthews, who oversee the high-tech program, can come to the oversight committee tonight to do a presentation on the academic and the workforce development need for that program. Grant Matthews is here tonight, and he will explain the role in the construction of the high-tech building, and I think that will bring you to ease.
Great, good. I would like to suggest, if I could, that our job is simpler than we've been discussing in the last several minutes. And let me pose a hypothetical. We have a set of decisions that have been made in a certain way by somebody. What we hear about is that those decisions got made. Our job is to check and see if they comply with what the public was told before they voted on the bond, and whether they comply with whatever the other restrictions are that we're supposed to report to the board about. If the decision gets changed later, for whatever reason, our job is the same. It is still to review the decision and the plan to see that it complies with what the public was told when the bond was voted on, and what the plans were. I have to say, the plans that the Public Works told about were very broad. They were basically labels. And in my view, at least, it is not our job to sort of dig down to figure out who made a decision. It is rather, is the current decision that we're working from, does it comply with what the public was asked to approve when it approved the bond? And of course, there are a wide variety of things that would fit within those ideas, within those, given that what we've got are a series of labels for buildings with different functions in that bond measure. I believe we would go down a deep rabbit hole if we were to try to pursue how a decision got made, and who made it specifically. Ultimately, of course, the board made it, because they're the ones in charge of this thing. But if we can narrow our review to what I think we were charged with, which was, does this conform to what the public was asked the money for, then our review gets a lot simpler. We can get it done in fewer meetings. And members of the committee may very well have other issues that they'd like to raise with the president or with the board, and they're perfectly free to do that outside the context of this meeting. Now, President Hamilton, Dr. Salyer, how have I missed it? Where did I miss the point of this group for the purpose we've been talking about now?
I think you got it, Phil. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Amanda, you have your hand up.
This has all been really helpful. I guess for me, and I hear it, I took the notes. I took notes when Dr. Hamilton was speaking. I guess it's still kind of the information, like this is the first time since this committee has been formed that I feel like I actually have information that I can dig my teeth into and understand how things are being decided. And so for me, it's kind of that, like the DEI document that was shared on May 3rd. Finally, it's like, why did we have to wait? Why did we have to cause so many, raise our hands, ask so much to finally get this information? Because again, for me, if you want us to be able to back you and, be able to report out appropriately, why did it have to take so long?
Amanda, you still have your hand up. Do you want to speak some more?
I guess want to answer my question is, why did it take so long, and why did we have to ask so many times to finally get the information that we needed and wanted?
Could I interrupt and simply say, I understand that the committee's members are frustrated. I would like to get on with the point of the meeting, which is to get to that question I was raising earlier. Is the plan that the college is working from, does it meet the bond request that it made to the public? Does it conform to that or not? And if it does, we should tell the board that in our report. And if it doesn't, we should tell the board that in our report. You've heard me raise my own concerns about how information is passed to us. I think we're getting there. It's happening. But I don't want to spend a lot of more time in the committee on that if we can get on with what our real task is, if that's okay. Amanda, did you want to add something else? I know this is frustrating, but I know also we've got a couple of administrators waiting to talk to us that we'll probably have other things to do this evening if we can get to those items. Dr. Salyer, did you have some other comments you wanted to make before we get on to the question of the report to the board September work session? You had some comments to make on that.
No, Phil, if the oversight committee members have no question, that means for the next report, I will do the same format and report it. The only thing I will do different, maybe get with Tammy. As soon I finish the information for the board, maybe I send that out directly to the Oversight Committee.
Thank you. And of course, several members have asked that documents be linked in our agendas so that we can find them as we're doing our meeting preparation. If they're linked, then it becomes much easier for us to prepare for the meeting. We'd probably save quite a bit of time. We've already spent an hour and we're only through the first couple of items of our agenda. Thank you. Did you want to make some comments about the report to the board, September work session?
Yes, the only thing, Phil, I want to share. I spoke to President Hamilton about when would be the best time for you to present the information to the board. It was recommended September. So I wanted to share that with you to ensure that you know what was discussed and let you make a determination whether September was correct or not for you. I don't think the board is meeting in August, so I think August is out, and in July we have a new president coming in, plus we have a retreat. So that's why President Hamilton recommend that September might be the best time for the Oversight to make the presentation to the board. But that's a decision that you will have to make.
Well, could I just comment that if that's when the board wants it, and that's when it would be considered timely by the board, I assume that decision gets made at that level, not at our level. I'm getting a head nod from Kevin and a couple of others, and some head shakes from some other people, so I don't know.
Bill?
I think it's really important for us to have a meeting in which we review our report before the meeting, before it goes to the board. And that may be complicated if it's difficult to meet in July and August, unless we get it done pretty quickly and can meet in June to approve it. And to have the report ready by that. Dr. Hamilton, you had something?
Yeah, I was going to say the same thing. I mean, it's a really, when you're ready, and given all this that I've heard about the committee not getting the documents it needed in a timely fashion, we thought you might need more time. June would be fine if you got it ready. September will be okay because the new president will be here. I can see Dr. Chair Fragola probably tomorrow or the day after and double check with her, and I can get back to you, Phil, on that.
That would be great. And what I don't want to do is crowd the staff to get a report ready right away that the board is perfectly happy to have in September. If it's going to take more time for the staff to get it, to get the draft prepared so the committee can review it, I don't want to interfere with the staff's capacity or rush the board either. If they want to, so if Chair Fragola thinks something different, we need to know that pretty soon. But you meet with her tomorrow, as you say.
I will.
Okay.
To ask for you. Yes.
All right. Dr. Staley, did you have something else on the report to the board?
No, sir. No, sir. I'm finished for the evening.
Thank you. Let's go on then to design and construction updates. Tom?
Okay, I'm going to keep this pretty short because we did
it last month, didn't we?
We did it last month. Just the prime projects are Florence, which we are, they started construction. We've before the board, we have a guaranteed maximum price. The contractor is doing their contract buyout, and we're reviewing those buyouts currently and confirming scopes and values and all of that to make sure we hit that, understand what the variances are. So that's, and that one, actually the schedule, we're looking at being ahead of schedule on that. Our original schedule was to finish that by December of this year. And if currently we're on track to be able to get at least partial occupancy back in the facility by fall term. So that's a promising thing. I won't go into a whole lot of detail about the advanced technology facility because I want to pass that over to Grant to take care of that. And so the other project that currently going on is the health professions building. Both that building the health professions building is targeted to be occupied by the fall of 2024, which is per the original document. Getting a little later start on construction than we hope, but the contractor's okay with that. We do have, they're starting their procurement of a lot of things, and we'll actually start after the World's visit, Eugene and are on campus. They'll start doing some site preparation and some utility work with actual hardcore work starting about the time students come back. So that's that one. And projects coming up in the future, we're starting work to look at replacing the synthetic turf on the athletic fields. It's wearing out quickly, so that's a project we're just beginning. And then we have put an application in, 2 applications for state grants. One is for a seismic grant on building 2, which is a classroom building and houses our data center. So we'll be looking at that. And the other one is a capital construction grant for the math and science building. So after we get some things under construction, we'll start doing some programming and more detailed work on those 2 projects as we know more about when those. So that's the upcoming year, are those projects. The past 12 months have been those first 3 projects. So just to simplify things.
And if you just take what you just said and put it in writing, that might very well stand for that part of our report.
I see Mary Ann's hand up.
I'm sorry, Mary Ann, please.
Is the advanced technology building, is that my favorite, building 12?
Yes, well, something like that. And Grant will explain more when we're done with me, and I'll turn it over to him because he has been my partner. And I'll just say, I'll introduce Grant.
That's fine.
Matthews.
That's fine. That's all I wanted to know.
Yeah.
Right, and Grant is up next. So Tom, go ahead and introduce him.
Yeah, I'll introduce Grant Matthews. He has been our academic lead for both the health professions and the advanced technology building. So been with me fighting out the balance of budgets, program needs, figuring out what the best programs are and how we serve the academics best. So with that, Grant, I'll turn it over to you unless the chair has anything else you'd like to do.
I'm following down the agenda and he's next.
All right. Well, thank you, Tom. Thank you, Chair Barnhart and members of the committee. I really appreciate the opportunity to be here this evening and talk to you. This is a great project for me to talk about. I really am enjoying it and really appreciate the chance to inform all of you about all the great things that are going on there. As I get started, a couple of things. First off, I do apologize. I did contribute to the plethora of attachments. So in case you're wondering, the attachments that I provided is one titled May 2020-ITech. That document includes the slides that I'll be going through this evening. The other one is ITech Development and Partnerships, which is just a brief white paper summary on the project and some of the important aspects there. And the third is the NCATC MAP Executive Summary that I provided. I referenced that. I'll reference that both in this presentation as well as the short summary. So it's there in case you want to take a deeper look at it. And so those are there. I do want to recognize very quickly some of the team members that have worked with me on both this presentation as well as this project going along. Our Senior Instructional Dean, Chris Wren for Business Trades and Technology, has been an important part of this project. Tom obviously has been right there the whole time helping us move this forward and advocating. And Theo Davis with the Capital Construction Crew the Capital Crew has been close at hand. And then also, as we talk about some of the partnership aspects of this, I want to call out, we've been working with our architects, Henneberry Eddy, and they have really, from the very beginning, shared a similar desire for stakeholder input and worked well with us to really make sure that we have spaces for stakeholders throughout the process to share input and share ideas and really move the project forward. So I really appreciate the work that they've done with that. So as we look at this, is my screen showing up okay for everybody? Yeah, okay, perfect. I just wanted to talk briefly about, why iTech? Why are we talking about an industry and trades education center? Well, when we look at the changing workforce and the different aspects of workforce that are going on in our state and across the nation, I think that the aspect of skills training in manufacturing and trades and other areas becomes really apparent. Some of our consulting work shows that in Oregon, 50% of the jobs right now indicate a training need, and that's different than a university education. Very specifically, 50% of the jobs that we have are looking for specific skills and trades that they want as they're coming on board. The areas that in manufacturing, construction, trades, and other areas are expected to see solid growth over the next 5 to 10 years. We're looking at, in Oregon, about 220 new housing starts over the next decade. And some of these numbers are pre the kind of surge in economy that is taking place right now. As I talk to businesses and other professionals around the state, we hear continually about worker shortages, particularly in trades, in the skilled areas that they're looking for. And a couple of other reasons why I think it's so important that we're investing right now in an industry and trades building for training is that the state of Oregon is investing in Future Ready Oregon right now. And a lot of the grants and other opportunities that are being promoted there, specifically targeting students of color, diverse populations, and other underrepresented populations in our state. A lot of those funds are going to be coming through this Future Ready and are targeted here in areas that we can train in an industry and trades education building. And the other one is that when I look at this campus and when I look at our history, this will be one of the first significant investments in the trades and apprenticeship that the campus has made since the 1970s, really since the inception of the college. And so really this kind of rounds out the strong need for us to kind of continue to look at our investment in trades education. Now, if I drill down a little bit more narrowly, even though in Oregon we define manufacturing as quite a broad spectrum, when we look at Oregon employment data and some private job vacancy data here in Oregon, we're looking at major vacancies over this past summer, 11,000 vacancies in jobs that are receiving median wages that are strong family wage jobs here in our community. We see that in the private sector, they have jobs that they're saying are difficult to fill 76% of the time. That's a huge number of difficult to fill positions. And a lot of them require, about 50% of them require experience, which to me really speaks to our need to continue to invest in things like apprenticeship that provide these levels of experience as they're receiving training to be ready to move into these jobs. And as you can see, the growth expectancy over the next couple of years is very strong, about 21,000 jobs in these areas. So that brings me to kind of the exciting part of, okay, so what are we doing in the Industry and Trades Education Center, or what we're calling iTech? We're looking at having this building house many of our apprenticeship programs. We have apprenticeship training in carpentry, HVAC, several of our electrical trades, manufacturing, plant electricians, millwrights, plumbers, and steel metal workers. We're looking at being able to use this space to house the didactic learning that the apprentices do in their lecture courses, as well as have spaces within the building to practice some of the more hands-on pieces that they need to practice before they go and practice it on the job as apprentices. We're also looking to house our construction program in here, our machining program, and looking to branch into some new areas that are really exciting for our employers, as well as for us as a training institution through automation, robotics, or what is commonly known as Industry 4.0. We're also looking at putting in this building the unmanned aircraft systems and a fabrication lab to really tap into the synergies that are created between some of these industries like unmanned aircraft systems, where technicians are really employing a lot of the skills in machining and robotics in their same work, as well as being close to the welding and fabrication lab, where they'll also use some of those same strategies. But I will say, as I'm going through this, I have some thoughts prepared as I'm sharing, but if you have questions throughout, I'm glad to take those questions throughout. And Marianne, I see that you have your hand up. I don't know if you have some questions that are so far are things that I've not covered that you would want me to know. Okay. Henry, is that a hand?
Yes, it is.
Henry.
I wanted to know how much correlation or how much work are you working with the school districts? Because most of the apprenticeship programs, none of the students are even aware of it when they leave high school that these programs exist, because none of the school districts are really introducing them to any of the industrial programs.
Yeah, that's a great question, Henry, and I'll cover a little bit of that, but just directly for that, we are working closely with Lane ESD and other partners, particularly in our construction program. Our construction program has a history of being a strong pre-apprenticeship program, and we are working with Lane ESD and other high school partners to develop a more formal pre-apprenticeship program through there, and really reaching out to our high school partners in that. Lane ESD is very excited about being a partner within this building to be able to bring some of our school districts to the center and explore many of the opportunities that are there. And that's one of the really exciting aspects I think about this building, is that we have a lot of partners like the ESD in high schools that are hungry for a center like this to really be able to show their students what types of work are out there that they can be engaged in.
Are you going to work with the districts and allowing them to use the facilities? Because most of the school districts, especially 4J, scrap most of their industrial, they didn't like to call it industrial arts or industrial tech. And those programs have been pretty much just butchered. And so they're nothing but skeletons if they even exist. And so how are they going to introduce kids if there's no place in these districts to really introduce these, especially the trades?
Yeah, and that's been an ongoing conversation that we've had as a team, both with internally in the academic side, as well as with our design team, in making sure that we have sufficient space in this building to really be able to explore with the high school partners how we get those students here and what type of scheduling we can do to have them alongside our college level students or here independently, and really make sure that that's a strong tie. And so those are ongoing conversations that we've been having. And, you know, like I said, the pre-apprenticeship program that we're working with right now is running, and we're doing some partnerships through our through that program with Lane ESD. We're also looking at a grant opportunity through Future Ready Oregon that we're partnering with Lane ESD on to expand that and continue those conversations. You're right, but outreach to those high school students is a major priority that we have, which we anticipate being helped with this building, but also as a part of programming. And before I move on, you know, just to that point, you know, a study in 2018 by Deloitte looked at a couple of reasons why a lot of these jobs or a lot of these areas are struggling to find employees. And they found three major factors. One of the major factors is that the constant training need of the continuing advancement in technology makes it difficult to find and keep trained workers. The second reason that they found was that a lot of times the positions that are out there have had a negative stigma over the last many years. And changing that stigma is an important part of what we're trying to do by building a new, advanced, and state-of-the-art facility to really showcase that these programs are not what the stigma over the last many years has kind of worked them up to be. The third one is the one that many of us are familiar with around retirements, that the continuing retirement is causing shortages in the workplace.
Henry, did he get to your questions?
Yeah, it did. It's going to be interesting to see because I was one of those industrial art teachers, and even with 4J, and I've been on committees with 4J, and it's just the sincerity of educators sometimes is they look down upon the trades versus realizing everybody's not going to college. And these trade jobs make a lot of money. Plumbers, electricians, carpenters, they all make good money. And when I was a general contractor, the most difficult thing was to find students or even finding kids who knew basic mathematics to even get into the apprenticeship programs. A plumber, one of my plumbing contractors said that he couldn't even get kids to pass the test to become apprentice. It's almost like they're not prepping them in any kind of way to be able to get into the apprenticeship programs because their math skills are so low. And almost all the trades require some decent math. But that's just an observation from being in the trades, working with the trades, and teaching in the trades.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Grant, go ahead.
All right. So, one of the things that I'm really excited about this project, I know that we've had, conversations and progress as we've looked at this going from a renovation to a new building project. I believe you're familiar with that, some of those processes that went through for that. I'm really excited about this as a new project, particularly because it gives us an opportunity to really create a CTE district on campus and really begin to look at the synergies that we can create between programs. From the very beginning, as I've been in this position and as I've looked at this project, one of the things that I've tried to set as a priority is making sure that we are able to have different programs work together in different ways, more similar to how they do in industry. And by having this district, we're going to be able to really have programs close to each other, be able to share equipment, share space, share projects, and do some different things. An example of that is being in this location. Our machine shop is going to be right across the yard from our welding and fabrication space. Well, if we look at industry examples like Aztec and Johnson Crushers here in town, they are using fabrication welders along with machinists to create their crushers, a synergy between those programs. And our students will have an opportunity to have a similar connection between two different programs and see how projects might be able to work together. As I mentioned before, unmanned aircraft systems uses processes from all of these trades to be able to put together their flight systems. They'll have access to materials, equipment, and other things that they normally would not have access to. Our arts programs will have access to our fabrication lab and be able to work on equipment, high quality, high tech equipment that will improve kind of the STEAM approach to our education and allow other programs to be innovative and see what's going on in these trades and increase those opportunities for cross-discipline projects and opportunities. So I'm very excited about the opportunity that this new building brings to all of our programs as we move it forward. Now, I know one of the questions that comes up frequently is, okay, so who all are you talking to in order to make smart decisions about what is going on in this building? From the beginning, we partnered with the National Coalition of Advanced Technology Centers, NCATC, to come in and help us understand how an advanced technology center such as iTech should be designed. We've had ongoing conversations with business leaders and partners, including Lane ESD and Lane Workforce Partnership. We've also done a lot of benchmarking with partner schools. We've visited Lynn Benton, we've visited Pima Community College, PCC, and several other schools, some that have established industry and trades education centers such as ours, or advanced technology centers such as ours, and others that are just now starting to invest. And we've seen investments of between 70,000 square foot buildings to 200,000 square foot buildings and locations for these advanced technology center investments on college campuses around the country. And we've tried to learn from them as we've gone through. I've also been extremely pleased with the participation of our joint apprenticeship training committees. Those are the groups that really lead the apprenticeship programs. And they have been involved from the very beginning and very actively involved with the team in talking about the needs that apprenticeship programs have and how we can design this space for them. And we've also had lots of faculty and staff representation on our design groups. So these have been a lot of the conversations that have been ongoing with our community partners that have been taking place.
Grant, before you go
Yes.
on, could you tell us what the word joint means in that second to the last item?
The
What is that?
Joint Apprenticeship Training Committee.
Yeah, what does the word joint mean there?
The
Sounds like
joint,
it means more than one group or something.
the joint means that it's a collaboration between an education provider and the workplace provider. So
Gotcha.
Since this is a work-based learning program, apprenticeships are work-based learning, you must have a workplace that is taking on apprentices, but you also need to have educational facilities who are providing the didactic. So that's what the joint means.
So I'm assuming that at least during part of the program, apprentices are working on real jobs under the supervision of a journeyman and doing your coursework and practicum at night or weekends.
That is correct.
Yeah, thank you.
Yep.
The word joint is used, of course, in talking about the joint training centers, which are amalgams of employers and the unions. I wondered if these meant the same thing. It sounds like it does.
It's
Essentially.
very similar. Yeah, it's very similar. Yep.
Thank you.
I just wanted to take a couple of minutes and focus in on one of the partnerships that we had with the National Coalition of Advanced Technology Centers. This is a nationally recognized group that they're really the foremost national expert in advanced technology centers. And we engaged them early on to work with us on what we needed to think about when investing in an advanced technology center. They provide a member assistance program. The executive director, Craig McAtee, and one of the board members, Jeff Wyko, were present for this member assistance program. And they provided 15 90-minute interviews over 3 days with our local partners and businesses and industries. Now, I want to call out that I'm really impressed with the Lane community and all of the people that turned out for this. You know, we really had an astounding outpouring of support. You know, just as an example, more than 52% of the overall participants that we invited showed up and participated in one or more 90-minute sessions. That's a huge commitment, and really that participation rate exceeds most 5-minute surveys that are out there. And it really shows the dedication and the support of our leaders. And we had leaders, CEOs from some of our major companies like Seneca, some of the leading voices from Arcimoto, from a lot of our other businesses and industries from around. I know that I can't remember all of them off the top of my head, but I believe Sunvisors was there. I know that Lane Workforce Partnership and others were there. We had a lot of partners show up. Over 153 different organizations and companies were there providing feedback to us. And it really formed the foundation of the 20 general recommendations and 14 program and curricular recommendations that NCACT ended up providing to us. And you can see a lot of that in the executive summary that I've provided. But just very briefly, when we started talking with NCATC about what they heard from our community, what they saw from the workplace needs in our community, was that we really needed to look at investing in a 76,000 square foot or so facility to house our advanced technology center. We needed to look at the opportunity and possibility of investing $5 to $8 million over the next couple of years in equipment and investments for new and existing programs. And as an institution, recommended that we start looking at investing around what is about $7.5 million in new program development and curriculum updates. Some of that would be in areas like Industry 4.0, looking at the small businesses that are really looking and starting to explore automation and robotics as workplace solutions and how we can be on the ground floor of their training needs and going forward. And they also recommended that we start looking into business and industry leadership teams to help structure our advisory councils around more informative and more structured voices from our business leaders in what programming and curricular needs we have, both within the building and within the programs. That's kind of been the journey so far that we've taken with this, and I'm glad to answer any questions. And Marianne, I believe you have a hand up.
Marianne?
Grant, so, oh shoot, I need that.
No, I can go back.
Don't leave me. Okay. So 5 to 8 million for equipment investment, 7.5 for new program development. What will the building cost? I don't see building cost in here.
So that's because, building prices are constantly changing right now, right? The baseline recommendation that NCATC provided to us, looking at the needs of the training programs and the community that we have, their baseline recommendation was a building around 76,000 square feet.
Yep, you have that
Now,
there.
so, and that's why I didn't provide a building cost, because, that depends upon what your current costs are. Now, recognizing that we've tried to be really judicious with our space and really conservative with our space in moving forward, recognizing that building costs have gone up significantly over the last couple of years. And so, that 76,000 was the baseline that was recommended by NCATC. We have pared it down to a little bit more of an efficient building size that we're targeting. I believe, Tom, right now we're targeting around 55,000 square feet as our target for the building space. And the budget that goes along with that, I think, was in Dr. Stalliard's report earlier. I believe it's right at a $48 million budget right now.
Grant, with all due respect, the purview of this committee is to know what the square footage cost would be to build that building. That's what we're here for. I appreciate the philosophy on vocational training. My husband and I completely support that. And that was actually how I sold this to the community when I was advocating for the bond. I know how much it's going to cost.
Yeah, I understand.
Philosophy.
Yeah, as I said, I believe we're targeting right now a budget of 48 million for this this project. I think we'll know, and I'll let Tom speak to a little bit more of the details on the square footage price if you'd like to. But I believe that until we get the guaranteed maximum price, that number is fluctuating as we move into as we finalize designs.
And that includes a retrofit of building 12, not a tear down.
No, that's a separate budget.
Well, building 12 is a portion of that will be torn down. It is a separate budget. The new building with the site work and utilities that go with it is in the range of $600 to $625 a square foot. Fully fitted.
Say it again.
$600 to $625 a square foot.
Okay. Thank you.
Jennifer?
So I heard you mention that the square footage will go down. I guess my biggest question is, will the reduced square footage and any changes to your budget for equipment, will that still satisfy the needs of the programs? And if not, is there a plan to be able to fund equipment or whatever else you may need?
Yeah, thanks, Jennifer. That's a great question. I think that at 55,000 square feet, the current target, we're optimistic that we'll be able to be efficient with our space and meet the training needs and the program needs in that space. There's always that balance of no matter how big it is, you always want something larger. We've had to make some decisions there. And so I do believe that at the 55,000 square feet, we're at a space that we can be efficient and successful with our space. When we look at equipment, and particularly the recommendation of investment from NCATC, I think one of the things that I think would be on our agenda for sure is continuing to go out to some of our community members, businesses and otherwise, to look at how we might be able to outfit the space with the state-of-the-art equipment and other types of things that will allow us to really meet those needs and really, get their input on what types of equipment they're using in their spaces that we can replicate, that they can help us, that they can help provide in those spaces. So I think that there will be some continued opportunities for our community members to invest in the training and the equipment moving forward.
Thank you. That was part of my questions as well. Claire, I think you were next.
Thank you. Grant, thank you for a great presentation. I'm wondering if and I don't think you'll be able to answer this question, it's more a rhetorical question, just to get on the record that I'm asking this question. Is there a cap on the price that LCC is willing to spend on the iTech building, or are we just going to keep moving money from other projects in order to pay for this building and all of its needs, which are program development, curriculum updates, equipment? Is there a cap?
I'll gladly respond to that rhetorical question with my opinion, but
thank you.
You're right.
Thank you.
It is a rather rhetorical question. I think that in any response that I would give, I would go back to a couple of things that I've shared. One is, the growing need for skills training, as well as the immense amount of support that has been shown throughout this project by our leading business and industry community members, suggests to me that we recognize that prices are going up. We recognize that, construction is changing through this economy, but this is an investment that is worth our time. We have not made a significant investment at this institution in trades and apprenticeship since the 1970s. And I do feel like this is the time that we need to be investing in this. And so is there a price that's too high? I'd kind of say, I don't think there is. I think now is the time that we need to show our community that we're investing in these trades and technologies, and it's time to do it.
And if you're not actually in the conversation, it'd be useful to go on mute. Claire, did you have something else? Thank you. Marianne?
Well, I just did some quick math, and at $48 million for building 12 and 55,000 square feet, that's $870 a square foot, which is a far cry from 600 to 625 a square foot.
Equipment, maybe?
Yes, equipment and design costs. I'm sorry, I was looking at the total construction cost versus the total project cost.
Okay, and then second point, I do think that voters may argue or have concerns about no cost is too high. Oh, am I?
Oh, you're good. Marge is
Okay.
wants to.
I think this is the purview of this committee, is to make sure that we stay on financial oversight. And so, Grant, with all due respect, no cost is too high. Some costs might be too high.
Right. President Hamilton, please.
Yeah, thank you. With great respect, Grant, I disagree. It's just that but he's doing his job. I mean, Grant's job is to get the best building for his faculty, you know, and the teachers. We got that, and for the community. But at the end of the day, you know, we have to make the call. There's nothing in writing anywhere right now that I'm even aware of a cap for this or a cap for that. So picture a puzzle. It's 121 million or whatever the new number is, 130 million. There's the puzzle board, okay? But we have to fit all these things that we told the community we have to do within the puzzle boards. Not everybody's going to get everything to the expansion of what they want. And I absolutely will never fault my academic folks, Paul or Grant or any of the faculty, for wanting the best. We hire them to say, I want the best. But at some point, we are going to have to pull them in. There's no cap in writing. But this is where Tom loses sleep at night, because he's watching the cost escalation go up. And that's when he's got to pull everybody in a room together. And he usually pulls in the provost and he says, you got to go back to your people, because this one's got to shrink if this one is to have this. And there's that delicate dance that this is academic programming that the provost and the AVPs are going to have to all work to, and go back to the faculty and say, you know, it's got to give somewhere. So there is a cap. It isn't up to Grant to give a cap. There isn't. It isn't. His job is exactly what it's doing. Get me the best building I can get. That's awesome. That's the guy I want on my team. But it's the cabinet that we keep asking Tom to come back, and we're asking him, where are your numbers? You know, because we can't do that and then take away from another project. And you know, it's important, and this is what your job is too, guys. And that is, what were the priorities? Because I know I look at that top priority, safety and security, those earthquake, you know, you got to make these buildings earthquake safe. There's just certain things we've just got to do. And so this is where we are right now. I think this is where Tom is going to struggle a lot. And so you see where the wants are escalating on some areas. And at some point, we're going to have to tell Grant, maybe something has to be a little smaller, but I hear what he's saying. You only get one shot. You only get one shot at a building. So why wouldn't they ask for the best? I get it. You know, we totally get that. But don't forget that math science is only getting one shot. Math science and engineering is getting one shot. And then the workforce development center is getting one shot. And the nursing, or the dental, I should say, is getting one shot. So this is where I see Paul's hand up, so I'll stop. But this is where it gets tricky, as we say, because yes, there is a limit. There's a cap to the math somewhere.
Great. Paul.
Yeah, thank you. And nice meeting you, Phil. I don't know if we've had
I don't think we have.
To meet before. Nice meeting you. And thank you all for your time this evening. You know, it's a challenge because a lot of these things, and what I don't want the committee to walk away with is that we have cost escalations because we've been adding, you know, gold leaf here and that kind of thing at all. We are dealing with an incredible, unprecedented situation where material supplies are in the neighborhood potentially of, you know, 200% higher in cost, 300% in some cases than they were 2 years ago. And, you know, you have to realize we first put together some of this bond estimates about what it would cost to do some of these things, you know, 4 years ago. So it's not that you know, that we're trying to create something that is this palace, right? We're actually trying to realize that we have a very limited amount of money to work with now that has a lot more pressure on each dollar than it had before, and we really are doing the best to meet all needs. I do have to agree with Grant, not the notion that no cost is too high, but I do think that there is an opportunity here that we haven't had to invest in the trades that we haven't, and we have been not had the best relationship with a lot of our partners in the community because we haven't invested in the trades. So I think the balance is trying to figure out what is the amount that we need to put in to be able to make a facility that can be top-notch fully functional for both Lane Community College and the community at large to be able to use in our high school partners. And we're doing our best to do that with a situation that no one could have seen coming with runaway costs. So I know it's really challenging, and I thank you all for your efforts and hard work on this, but it is a as Tom will tell you, it's a challenge every day for him trying to deal with escalating costs of both materials and labor. And so we'll just keep trying to do the best we can to get what we want in the terrible situation.
Thank you. Mary Ann, did you have something else? No, Jennifer?
Yeah, I guess I just wanted to go back to the priorities, because I do believe, you know, if the safety upgrades, the earthquake upgrades, those are at any cost. We have promised that as priority number one. So if we are not, you know, we don't want to reduce priority number two, I would think, without first considering cutting number three. If we piecemeal or do little pieces of each project and don't fully give the taxpayers what they were looking for, that could also be an issue. So I guess that to me is just a really important thing, is prioritizing, because there are things on the third tier that maybe need to be cut to make sure that priority number one, safety, is taken care of, and then priority number two is taken care of. Of course, Tom, I'm sure that this is exactly what you are trying to balance. It's not an easy thing. I do understand that.
Well, and it occurs to me that and probably not this report, but maybe the next one, this committee could, if it's appropriate, point out the places in which compromises had to be made and where I hate to say it, the next bond measure might be looking for funds. That may not be our real role, but it's tempting to think about that, especially if we end up with concerns about projects that end up being smaller than perhaps the public contemplated when the vote occurred. I think you're stuck. You can't do everything you really wanted to do in 2020 because the costs have gone up, and that's a reality. You have no way around that. So then the question is, okay, what's the next step? Claire, did you have something else?
Yeah, I just wanted to ask if, and it's possible that nobody in this group is going to be able to answer this, but are we actually asking for any industry partners to help us build any of this? Are they fundraising for this project that they will benefit so incredibly from? Are we, if we need more money to do the project, where are we going to find that money? And is industry a good place to look and ask for assistance with training their future employees? We don't ask this of the arts or writing or philosophy majors or anything else, right? All these other parts of campus could have completely new facilities for the cost of this project. So I just wonder, is industry willing to help pay for some of this?
Dr. Hamilton?
Yeah, so great question, Claire, and the answer is yes. So, but it's all in the approach. So the LCC Foundation Board has asked about what the college, right, the board would like. They would like some direction on the next campaign. So in our many conversations with the board, they are aware of the escalation, but they're also aware you get your best bang out of your bond dollar buck in bricks and mortar. So that the campaign would be best served by going after equipment, since this is incredibly expensive equipment, whether it's the healthcare sector, right? The cyber, so tech, healthcare, and tech, right? The advanced tech. So we're thrilled that the foundation is asking for their next campaign advice. And it really looks like the tech building equipment will probably moved forward. I don't want to speak for Grant, but yes, the foundation's ready for their next big campaign, and this would be a perfect way to lighten the load. And maybe that's the cost per square footage of the building.
Thank you for that. Thank you for that.
Thank you. And I completely agree. 25 years ago, when the Eugene School Board was cutting these kinds of programs because of measures 5 and 50, one of the big issues was that our equipment was obsolete. And it was obsolete then, 25 years ago. So having a coherent plan, as it sounds like, President Hamilton, you do, to regularly update by going out and asking for help, sounds like a great idea to me, so that you don't end up in the situation where you're training people for jobs that don't exist anymore, when you should be training them for the new ones. And of course, that happens really fast in the technological world we live in. Other questions, comments for Grant? Shall we move on? Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you for a great presentation. I appreciate it very much. Let me see. I think the next thing is the bond completion project 2020 completed projects. Tom, did you have something you needed to add from after last meeting?
No, I think we'll wrap that up. And looking at the time, we have about 14 minutes left in this meeting. So I'm gonna.
Well, I think you covered it last time.
Yeah, I think we're good. If there's any, I'll hand it over to Jennifer Hayward to talk about if there are any questions regarding the community benefits agreement or the diversity, equity, and inclusion. Because
thank you. That's a great idea. Let's do that.
And then we can wrap up. So.
Great.
Jennifer, do you want to speak? You're on mute. So.
Chair Barnhart, if you'd like, I can just give a real brief overview of the DEI material I submitted.
That would be great, and then we'll see if there's questions.
Okay. So the vast majority of the bond money is going to be spent on the big projects that we've been discussing tonight, and a few other big projects. And on those big projects, we're using the construction manager general contractor contracting method, where we select contractors based on qualifications rather than on a design, bid, build, hard bid process. And so when we put out a request for proposal, we require the contractors to address how they're going to support the Board of Education's resolution in support of a community benefit agreement. And that board resolution includes prioritizing diversity and equity and utilizing what the industry calls co-bid contractors. And in my memo, I defined what co-bid means, but it essentially is the umbrella term for women-owned businesses, minority-owned businesses, service disabled, veteran-owned businesses, and emerging small businesses, excuse me. So we select contractors partially based on how they'll support the community benefits agreement and our DEI goals. And this system was used on one fully completed project already, not a bond project, but a project that was funded by a seismic grant, where we ended up hiring Fortis Construction to do a seismic project and using this system. And they had 33% of their subcontractors fell under the COVID umbrella, which I was really impressed with. So I have high hopes for how things are going to go with the bond based on this contracting method that we're using. So for the three major projects that we've been talking about tonight, we hired Fortis Construction for the Health Professions Building and Lise Crutcher Lewis for the Florence Center and the iTech projects. And I submitted, along with my memo, the information that they submitted to us that showed how they would support our community benefit agreement. And I highlighted on each page specifically how they said that they would address diversity, equity, and inclusion. So I won't go over that in detail. I'm guessing you all have had a chance to read it. So if you have any questions or comments or feedback, let me know.
Thank you. Questions? I would simply note that the materials that you've provided for us have been in my view, at least, very complete and useful. Questions, anybody? Shall we go on to discuss the next meeting time?
Sure. Our normal quarterly update would be in August. So we can discuss whether that's vacation season. So whether we actually want to have a physical meeting, I think is a question.
Well, our quarterly meeting would be in July because the last quarterly was April.
April. Yes, I'm sorry. Yeah. So
I don't know if that helps you with your vacation plans.
But so we'll be sending out information in July. You're right on the update.
Well, I personally, I would like very much to have a very good draft of our report before the next meeting, and so that the board, so that the committee can review it, amend it, and then send it on to the board for its September meeting. And can we do that by July, assuming we meet the parameters that I was talking about earlier? Meaning, I don't want to write a 47-page report. I think 2 or 3 pages with some addenda would be good. One of those addenda, of course, would be Grant's slides from tonight, because I thought they were really good. Tom or anyone else in the administration have any thoughts about us being able to get that done for a meeting in
Dr.
July?
Hamilton's.
Yeah, Dr. Hamilton.
Thanks, Phil. We're this close. I got actually during the meeting, I got a response back from Chair Fragola. She'd love to have this at the July meeting. So it's close. You might be able to pull it off. I'm looking at the calendar right now. The July meeting is the 6th.
So we need to meet in June.
So you need to meet at the end of June. I think given that the compression of a brief summary overview of like 2 to 3 pages, I think it's doable. And, you know, again, Tom is giving them all kinds of attachments every month. So they're going to be getting all of this. It's just more of really, I think Chair Fraggle is looking for the questions to those, the answers to those 3 questions. And then anything you want to say in addition to that. So I think, and of course, the staff will help you with the writing of this.
Right. Well, I'm assuming the staff basically is going to write it, and then I'm going to review it, and then the committee will approve it or not and amend it. Here's what I have in mind, and I've said this to Tom, and I think to George as well. Basically, the opening sentence of something like this is, in the committee's opinion, the plans involving this bond measure either do or do not conform to the materials presented to the voters when it passed the bond measure, and then go on to describe what we reviewed. You know, just list essentially what we reviewed. If there were significant controversies about it, and I would think we'd have a paragraph on the building we were talking about tonight, because we did have a big discussion about that in April, and sort of review what our views are about that at this point. And then maybe a paragraph on acknowledging the limitations brought about by the inflation in costs that we have. And then if it's appropriate, a list of attachments, which might take a page by itself. We don't actually have to attach them because they're already in the library that you guys keep. You have another name for it. I can't remember it. But that's my thought about how this would get written, and therefore it's pretty simple, and it requires a judgment call on our part in the next meeting, basically on that first sentence, and then whatever additional descriptors we want to make in the next 2 or 3 paragraphs. What are your thoughts? Is that a reasonable approach, or should we be doing something different? And let me ask Dr. Hamilton or others. I'm frankly not familiar with what the kinds of formats the board is used to getting for reports. I'm making this up based on my review of basically financial audits which follow the format that I just described. If something else would make more sense to the board, we ought to do that.
No, you were spot on. I would like to read that. If I was on the board, to me, that sounds simple. You know, they're like all of you. They're simple is better. Because like I said, they're getting a monthly play-by-play. So they're counting on you to respond to those 3 questions. So I think this is being taped, I'm assuming, Tammy. So she's got word for word what you said. And I'm sure that George and Tom will be able to use that as a draft. Thank you.
Yeah. But while we're still here, comments and thoughts from other members of the committee. What I've given you is basically my whole cloth approach, and I haven't had any input from any of the committee members about it. So I would love to have them if you have other thoughts that we didn't cover. Jennifer, where is she? I don't see anybody raising a hand. So did I get it in one? Roger, please.
Roger raised his hand. That we've lost a few people as well. So
Roger, you're on mute, sir. Roger, you're on mute. You'll need to unmute. There you are.
I think it's important to underscore the work of the committee as well as the quality of the staff's reports to us. And
oh, absolutely. Yes, thank you. I agree.
And I want to underscore that a little bit by saying thanks to the people who, number one, prepared the informative data tonight. For the first time, I feel like I've been really well informed on this sort of thing. And the quality of the questions and the dialogue that went on today is even more important. And I think that it's proof that we're doing our job.
Yes.
The nature of the questions and the responses that we've been getting.
Yes.
So I would say thank you. And I think you need to set the course that way, Phil.
Thank you. I completely agree. And I may not have emphasized that sufficiently. Yeah. Other comments?
I see Mr. Bass's hand up.
Oh, Bass, yes, please.
Yeah, I'm basically going to agree with all of the above. And I think the thing I'm seeing here happening a lot is a whole lot of concerned citizens who keep wanting to dig, stick their camel noses under the tents and do a whole lot more than what this committee is really chartered to do. And I appreciate that we spent some struggle time trying to figure some of that out today. Because a lot of these things, I went through a bond issue over in the Cottage Grove School District for a mere $34 million. And it was chewed out at the school board level week after month after month. And most of the things that came up tonight that were challenges to really hardworking LCC staff, I think are best brought up at the board level. But if there's some way, Phil, you can capture just a little bit of that dynamic as a challenge when you make that presentation, that will at least convey the momentum of a whole lot of citizens really getting behind this and the absolute necessity of CTE, getting on its own again. That's all.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that comment very much. Other comments before we adjourn for tonight? So, as I understand it, we're going to hold a meeting. It may be abbreviated because it may have one agenda item in addition to approving minutes, and that would be the discussion of the report and its amendment and approval for the board, so that we can have it to them before their July 6th meeting. Is that all right? Is there any reason that we should not adjourn now? Now's your chance, TL.
There is no reason we should not adjourn now.
Thank you, Claire. Appreciate that. All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, any opposed? Thank you all. It's been a great meeting tonight. Thank you, President Hamilton, Grant Matthews, and the other administrators who have patiently attended this and other meetings with us. We appreciate the fact that we're cutting way into your family time, and we will. Tom will tell us, or Tammy will tell us when we're going to meet again. Sometime, we hope, next month. Yes. All right. With that, we're adjourned. Thank you.
Good night, everybody.